Yes, ma'am. Can you start?
Can I start, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, students. We have started with the lesson Human Settlement, lesson number 7. In the previous period, we have learned about the 3 types of settlement: scattered settlement, nucleated settlement, and linear settlement. In that, we have studied linear settlement, a long and narrow settlement with houses spread out in a line along a road, railway, river, sea coast in foothills region. These linear settlements are narrow in shape and they gradually grow in size. About scattered and dispersed settlement, houses or huts in this type of settlement are far apart from each other. Generally, such settlements are found in the areas of high relief, dense forest, grassland, hot desert, and extensive agricultural lands. Such areas show spare population and the absence of proper roads. So today we will start with the topic urbanization. Here you on the screen you can see a graph is shown, and the year in the graph is given 1960, 1970, 1980, 1990, 2000, and 2010. And the scale is given of 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90, 105. And the question asks, what is the interval of the data? The interval of the data we can see as per the year 1960 to 1970, 10 years, 1970 to 1980, 10 years, 1980 to 1990, 10 years, 1990 to 2000, 10 years, and 2000 to 2010, 10 years. So the interval of the data is 10 years. In graph reading, when the question comes in the graph reading, this question definitely comes. What is the interval of the data? So for the data, you have to calculate by the year given in the graph. So it's a graph of a Brazil trend of urbanization. What is the position of the urbanization from 1960 to 2010 in Brazil? So the interval of the data is of 10 years. So from 1960, the urbanization is shown till 2010. So in the 1960, it was 47.1. 1970, it was 56.8. 1980, it was 66. 1990, it is 74.6. 2000, it is 81.5. And 2010, it is 84.6. In which period did urbanization occur rapidly? So in Brazil, we can see the urbanization occurred rapidly in the decade of 1960 to 1970. 1960, it was 47.1, and in 1970, it has rise up to the 56.8. So as per the other year, as per the comparison between the other years, the rapid increase is between 47.1 to 56.8 in the year 1960 to 1970. Next question, write 5 sentences analyzing the graph. So The Brazil trend of urbanization is shown in 1960 to 1970, 1970 to 80, 80 to 90, 90 to 2000, and 2000 to 2010. The graph shows interval of 10 years. It is clear from the above graph that the growth of urbanization in Brazil has been fast. From the graph, we can study that the growth of urbanization in Brazil is fast. The Brazil is one of the few developing countries which is highly urbanized. From this, we also come to know that the Brazil is one of the few developing countries which is highly urbanized. Brazil substantial growth process is unique and one of the underlying factors contributing to its present day rapid economic growth. So the Brazil substantial growth, urban growth process is unique. So the urban growth process of Brazil is unique and one of the underlying factor contributing to its present day rapid economic growth. So one of the underlying factors for the growth to its present day rapid, it shows the economic growth is rapidly. So Brazil's substantial urban growth process is unique and one of the underlying factors contributing to its present day rapid economic growth. Today, about 86% of Brazil population lives in the urban areas, while 86% of Brazil population is living in the urban area. In Brazil, rapid urbanization happened mainly in the south and the southeast, and Sao Paulo emerging as a major metropolitan and industrial area. So in Brazil, the rapid urbanization is happening in the south and the southeast with Sao Paulo. It's a big city in Brazil, so it has a great impact for developing urbanization in Brazil. It's also known as a metropolitan and industrial areas. Most of the industries, big industries are there, various facilities are provided. So people prefer mostly to live in Brazil. So 86% Brazil population lives in the urban areas. In Brazil, rapid urbanization happened mainly in the south and the southeast, with Sao Paulo emerging as a major metropolitan and industrial area. Go West policy. Looking at this growth in few parts of the country, the government is providing Go West policy in Brazil. Go West policy, it is because the growth in the Brazil is developing day by day, increasing day by day. In few parts of the country, the government is promoting Go West policy. So here we can see a graph, map showing the population distribution of Brazil. The pink color dots, where the dots are very dispersed away from each other, it shows very less population in that area. Where the dots in the pink color, it's somewhere nearby to each other, showing the population in the minimum middle level. And where the dots are very much closer to each other, more dots in that particular area, means the population is more in that particular state or particular region. And if the population is more, just because of the urbanization, the main cities are there in the Brazil, which has industrial areas and metropolitan areas. So the population is more in that area. So from the map, we can clearly comes to know the population of the Brazil, which will reduce pressure on few areas where population is concentrated and will reduce regional imbalance in the country. So Go West policy in Brazil, the government is promoting because people are crowding, making crowd as the preference given to the urbanized area, industrial areas, to the big cities of the Brazil. So to maintain the balance between the area, to maintain balance in the country related to the population, so Go West policy is promoted by government of Brazil, so that it will reduce pressure on few areas where population is concentrated and will reduce regional imbalance in the country. Here the question is given. Study the Chloroplate map of Brazil showing the state-wise urban population of Brazil and answer the following questions. Chloroplate map is the thematic map in which areas are marked denoting the distribution of some property such as population density. So it's a map, and the map is a Chloroplate map. Chloroplate map is a thematic map. It has a particular theme in which areas are marked denoting the distribution of some property. Some property means the area is marked as per the given information. For example, population, rainfall, or the urbanization. So in that map, you can see different shades of pink color is used. Somewhere you can see it is dark pink, and somewhere you can see it is light pink, and somewhere in the places you can see very light pink. So as per the scale is also given in the graph. The dark color indicates large quantity, and as per the shade is being reduced, it shows the less in numbers. So the question, which state region in Brazil is the most urbanized? The most urbanized state in Brazil is Sao Paulo. So in the dark pink color in the map shows that it is a Sao Paulo city. It has the most urbanized state. In the dark color it is shown in the map. So the most urbanized state in Brazil is Sao Paulo. Which state region is the least urbanized? The least urbanized is, as per the graph, we have 3 states which is least urbanized: Para, Piauí, and Paraná. These are the 3 states as per the map. Looking to the map, we can get the 3 least urbanized is Para, Piauí, and Maranhão. Compare the line graph shown in figure here and the one drawn by you for Brazil. Write 5 lines on the changes in that have occurred urbanization in both the countries with time. So the 2 graph is given. It is one is of India, first is of India, trend of urbanization, and the second is of Brazil, trend of urbanization. India, it's here given from 1961 to 2011, and the Brazil, it's here given from 1960 to 2010. So after comparing both the graph, it is evident that the urbanization in Brazil has happened much faster than in India. So as compared to the Brazil, the urbanization in, as compared to India, the urbanization in Brazil is much faster. In India, the urbanization starts in 1961 as per the graph, and in Brazil, we can see it started in the 1960. So in the first year in the 1961 in India, it is just 18.0, and in Brazil, you can see in the first year 1960, it's 47.1. After that, in 1971 in India, it is 18.2. And in Brazil, in 1970, it is 56.8. In 1981, in India, it is 23.3, and in Brazil, in 1980, it is 66. So in 1991, it is 25.7, and in 1990, it is 74.6. In 2001, it is 27.8, and in 2000, it is 81.5. 2011 in India, it is 31.2, and in Brazil in 2010, it is 84.6. So this is the difference between both the countries related to urbanization, and while comparing, we can come to know that Brazil is more urbanized and most fastly urbanizing as per the India in urbanization. So after comparing both the graph, it is evident that the urbanization in Brazil has happened much faster than in India. Compare the line graph showing in figure here and the one drawn by you for Brazil. Write 5 lines on the changes in that have occurred urbanization in both the countries with time. So in India, in the decade 1960 to 1970, the growth with regards to the urbanization has recorded at 0.2%. On the other hand, in Brazil, the growth was recorded at 9.7% in the same decade. So while comparing the line graph, we have drawn the conclusion that in India, in the decade 1960 to 1970, the growth with regards to urbanization was recorded at 0.2%. On the other hand, in Brazil, the growth was recorded at 9.7% in the same decade. The growth of urbanization in India was 5.1% in the decade of 1970 to 1980, which was the highest as compared to all the decades between 1960 to 2011. On the other hand, in Brazil, the growth of urbanization has nearly doubled from 1960 to 2000. This clearly indicates that the urbanization in Brazil was much faster than India. So the growth of urbanization in India was 5.1% in the 10 years of study 1970 to the year 1980. So in the 1970 to 1980, the growth of urbanization is 5.1%, which was the highest and compared to all the decades between 1960 to 2011. On the other hand, in Brazil, the growth of urbanization, if we see in the year 1960 to 2000, this clearly indicates that urbanization in Brazil was much faster. Compare the line graph in the figure here and the one you have drawn. And again, the same point in the decade 2000 to 2010, the rate of growth of urbanization in both Brazil and India was nearly the same. India 3.4% and Brazil 3.1%. Countries are developing countries, but urbanization has been more in Brazil as compared to India. And from 1980 onwards, urbanization is going on India slowly and consistently. So in the decade, in the 10-year, decade means 10 years gap. So in the 10 years gap, it is 2000, in 2000, 2010, the rate of growth of urbanization in both Brazil and India is nearly the same. In India, it was 3.4 and in Brazil, it was 3.1. It's not more difference is there. But both the countries are developing countries. India is also developing country and Brazil is also developing country, but urbanization has been more in Brazil as compared to India. Both the countries comes in the developing countries. India is also developing, Brazil is also developing, but while comparing between the urbanization, Brazil is more urbanized than India. And from 1980 onwards, from the year 1980, urbanization is going on India slowly and consistently. Now your question is asked, observe the two satellite image given below. Describe the satellite with respect to physiography. Considering the physiography, where would this settlement be located? Find out their settlement pattern and limitation with respect to their future growth. So the question is given and the two pictures are given. So we have to find out their settlement pattern and limitation with respect to the future growth. So both satellite images show human settlement in the mountainous region. One settlement is along the slope of the mountain, while the other is on top of the mountain. So this is the difference between both the images. So the both satellite image show human settlement. In the both we can see human settlement. One it is in the mountainous region. Both are in the mountainous region, but one settlement is along the slope of the mountain, while the other is on top of the mountain. So both settlement images are of human settlement in the mountainous region, especially. One settlement is along the slope of the mountain, while the other is on top of mountain. Both are dispersed type of settlement. While looking this, we can see that the both settlement is of dispersed type. Future growth. So, while studying as the future growth, Further growth for human settlement seems difficult. While considering the first image, this is mainly because of the forested land along the mountain slope. The second image showcases step going on downwards. There is a danger of landslide in this region. And hence here too, the scope of future growth for human settlement is very less. The scope of development for the humans is very less in future. So the further growth for human settlement seems difficult. While considering the first image, when we see the first image, we can get the information about the further growth for human settlement seems very difficult. This is mainly because of the forested land along the mountain slope, because the land is forested along the mountain slope. And the second image showcases step going downwards. It is at the steps going downwards, this human settlement. There is a danger of landslide. So it may has a damage due to the danger of landslide in this region, and hence here the scope of future growth for human settlement is very less. So the scope for the future growth of human settlement is very less. So while studying both the pictures, we can get the information that further growth for human settlement seems difficult. While considering the first image, there is mainly because of the forested land along the mountain slope. The second image showcases step going downwards. There is a danger of landslide in this region, and hence here too the scope of future growth for human settlement is very less. Now there is again a question. Make a short note on comparison between settlement pattern in India and Brazil on the basis of following points. Some points are given and we have to make a short notes on comparison between the settlement pattern in India and Brazil. So in India, nucleated settlement and dispersed settlement. Picture A shows the nucleated settlement, picture B shows the dispersed settlement, and in Brazil, the lowland of Amazon River. And in the picture B, it's shown as the Sao Paulo. So in India, the two pictures shows the nucleated settlement and dispersed settlement, and in Brazil, the lowland of Amazon River and the Sao Paulo. So from this, we have to compare between the settlement pattern in India and Brazil. Points are given as location pattern, types, and its density. So location, human settlement are mostly found in those areas where there is availability of water, favorable climate, abundance of minerals, and efficient transport system. So human settlement are mostly found in those areas where there is availability of water. Mostly as a human being, every human being sees a place to settlement where there is water availability for use. Favorable climate is also one of the main important factor for human being to survive in that place. If climate is proper, the human being can easily survive, easily stay. The climate suits to human being. And if it does not suit for the human being cannot live in that place. Abundance of mineral and efficient transport system. Abundance of mineral availability in that particular place should be proper, should be sufficient for a human being to live. And transport system is the very much important, because human being cannot stay on one place. They have to travel from one place to another for the purpose of education, job, occupation, employment, or some other reason. So transport facility is very much important. From the place of working to go at the place of their house, because every human being return to their home at night. So transport facility is very much important for a human being to travel. If there is a proper transport facility, human being prefer to live in that particular place. So human settlement are mostly found in those areas where there is availability of water, favorable climate, abundance of minerals, and efficient transport system. For example, there is a dense concentration of human civilization in the North Gangetic plains of India, as they have fertile soil, favorable climate, availability of water, etc. Similarly, in Brazil, dense forest settlements are found near the eastern coast, as it has fertile soil for cultivation and favorable climate. So there is a dense concentration of human civilization in the North Gangetic plains of India, as they have fertile soil. Why there is concentration of human settlement? Because they have, in that place, it has fertile soil, favorable climate, availability of water. Similarly, in Brazil, dense human settlement are found near the eastern coast, as it has fertile soil for cultivation and favorable climate. So in the Brazil, dense human settlement are found near the eastern coast, as it has fertile soil for cultivation and favorable climate. So favorable climate, availability of water, abundance of mineral, efficient transport facility, fertile soil. These are the things, these are the factors which a human being need for the survival. So if these all things are sufficient, proper for a human being, in that place, there is mostly urbanization and the settlement is very dense. So as per the location, we can see human settlement are mostly found in those areas where there is availability of water, favorable climate, abundance of mineral and efficient transport system. For example, there is a dense concentration of human civilization in the North Gangetic plains of India, as they have fertile soil, favorable climate, availability of water, etc. Similarly, in Brazil, dense human settlement are found near the eastern coast, as it has fertile soil for cultivation and favorable climate. Pattern. Among both the countries, India has varied type of human settlement. As comparing to both the countries, India has a varied type of human settlement than Brazil. For example, in the North Indian plains along the river and the roads, we find linear type of settlement. In the North Indian plains along the rivers and the roads, we find the linear type of settlement. The settlement is in of linear type. Whereas at the confluence of the river and in the cities, we find nucleated settlement. In the areas of the rivers and in the cities, we find the nucleated settlement. In the mountainous and the desert, we find dispersed type of settlement. On the other hand, in Brazil, along the eastern coast and in the cities like Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, we find nucleated settlement. Whereas in areas on Amazon Delta, we find sparse settlement. So this is the difference between the India and Brazil settlement. So in India, there is a varied type of human settlement as compared to Brazil. So example is given in the North Indian plains along the river and the roads, we find linear type of settlement. So where there is in the North Indian plains along the rivers and the roads, it is linear type of settlement is found in North Indian plains, whereas the confluence of the rivers and in the cities, we find nucleated settlement. In the mountainous and desert region, we find dispersed type of settlement. On the other hand, in Brazil, along the eastern coast and in the cities like Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, we find nucleated settlement, whereas in the areas of Amazon deltas, we find sparse settlement. So from this, we can get the idea of a pattern, the comparison between India and Brazil. Types. As both the countries are developing in nature, as we all know that both the countries, India and Brazil, are developing in nature, one can find rural as well as urban settlement. For example, in India, most states like Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, etc. have rural settlements. So in India, most states like Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra have a rural settlement. In these parts, mostly it has a rural settlement. Urban settlement are found in the cities like Mumbai, Kolkata, Jaipur, etc. So the urban settlement in India, it is found in Mumbai, Kolkata, Jaipur, etc. cities. And in Brazil, states in southeast like Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Espírito Santo show more urbanization, while those in north like Para, Marano, Piau, etc. show very less urbanization. So this is the difference between the states of Brazil. So in Brazil, the states like in southeast, the states like Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Espírito Santo shows more urbanization. These are the places of the more urbanized region, while in the Para, Parano, Piau, it has a very less urbanization. So as both the countries are developing in nature, one can find rural as well as urban human settlement. For example, in India, most states like Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, etc. have rural settlement. Urban settlements are found in cities like Mumbai, Kolkata, Jaipur, etc. In Brazil, states in southeast like Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Espírito Santo show more urbanization, while those in north like Para, Parana, Piau, etc. show very less urbanization. So as per the density, dense and nucleated settlement are found in places experiencing favorable condition, climatic conditions. The density of population is very high, or nucleated settlement is found in that particular area just because it has a favorable climatic condition, availability of raw material, sound transport system, etc. So these are the main reason for dense population. So on the other hand, spare and disparate type of settlement is found in the places experiencing adverse geographical condition, where there is condition is very bad, no transport facility, no proper climatic condition, no fertile soil, no water availability, proper water availability. So in that place, the settlement is very adverse and dispersed. So the dense or nucleated settlement are found in places experiencing favorable climatic condition, availability of raw material, sound transport system, etc. On the other hand, spare or dispersed type of settlement is found in places experiencing adverse geographical condition. So, for example, we can see while there are dispersed settlement in the desert of western Rajasthan, the coastal region have dense settlement in Brazil. Except for the Manos region, there is a spare settlement in the rest of Amazon Valley and dense settlement along the eastern coast. So for example, while there are dispersed settlement in the desert, there is dispersed settlement in the desert area, such as the western Rajasthan. The coastal region have dense settlement. So as for the comparison, in the desert area, we can have less population, and in the coastal area, we can have dense population. Why? Because there is proper fertile soil and availability of water. So this is the difference between India, different states like Rajasthan and the coastal region. In the desert region, like Rajasthan, there is a dispersed settlement, and in the coastal region have dense settlement. And in Brazil, except the Manaus region, there is a spare settlement in rest of the Amazon Valley. There is spare settlement in Amazon Valley because it has a dense forest, no proper facility to transport. So except Manos, it has a proper settlement, but except that there is a spare settlement in the rest of the Amazon Valley and dense settlement along the eastern coast. And it has a densely populated area along the eastern coast because it has a proper climate, fertile soil, transport facility is also there, availability of raw material is also proper in that particular states. So dense or nucleated settlement are found in places experiencing favorable climatic condition, availability of raw material, sound transport system. On the other hand, spare or disparate type of settlement is found in places experiencing adverse geographical condition, etc. For example, while there are disparate settlement in the desert of the western Rajasthan, the coastal region have dense settlement in Brazil. Except for the Manaus region, there is spare settlement in the rest of Amazon Valley and dense settlement along the eastern coast. Here you can see map given. It is also a chloroplate map. A pink color is given and different shades of pink color is given to indicate the information of the Brazil. So as you see the map, urbanization has occurred more in the coastal states than the states in the interior of the country. So from this map, we can come to know that the urbanization is occurring in the mostly in the coastal states than that of the states in the interior part of that country. In the coastal sites, urbanization is more. People prefer for human settlement in that area than that in the interior of the country. States like Sao Paulo, Goiás, Minas Gerais has more urban population than states in the north. From the map, you can come to know that the state like Sao Paulo, Goiás, Minas Gerais have more urban population than states in the north of Brazil. In this part, Manaus is a port on the confluence of the Negro and the Amazon. So in the picture, you can see very big ships are shown. Manaus, it is a place, it is a Manaus, it is a water port. So in this part, Manaus is a port on the confluence of Negro and the Amazon. What factors have affected urbanization in Brazil? So what are the factors that are affecting the urbanization in Brazil? The degree of urbanization is more in the eastern coastal region of Brazil. This region benefits from the north land, South Atlantic Sea coast. The hot and humid climate, availability of water, natural resources, agriculture, land, transportation facility, interrupted electricity supply, etc. have affected the urbanization in Brazil. So this is the factor that have affected urbanization in Brazil is the degree of urbanization is more in the eastern coastal region of Brazil. So urbanization is more in the eastern coastal region of Brazil. So this region is benefited from the Northland, South Atlantic Sea coast. So it gets the benefit from the Northland, North and South Atlantic Sea coast. The hot and humid climate, it has a hot and humid climate, availability of water, natural resources, agriculture, land, transportation facility, uninterrupted electrical supply, etc. have affected urbanization in Brazil. So the question were asked, which factors have affected urbanization in Brazil? The degree of urbanization is more in the eastern coastal region of Brazil. This region benefits from the Northland South Atlantic Sea coast, the hot and humid climate, availability of water, natural resources, agricultural land, transportation facility, interrupted electrical supply, etc. have affected urbanization in Brazil. So in this way, we have completed the lesson. In this lesson, we have studied points to remember. We will go through it. In India, we can see a variety of settlement pattern given the variety of climatic factor, availability of water, slope of the land, and the level of development. Nucleated settlements are found throughout the plateau region of Narmada Valley, paddy lands in Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, and Vindhya Plateau, and several other cultivated parts of India. Dispersed settlements are found in tribal parts covering the central part of India, eastern and the southern Rajasthan, Himalaya slopes, and land with dissected and uneven topography. The earlier settlements in Brazil were formed by the settlers from Europe, mainly in the coastal areas. The Sao Paulo areas has a nucleated settlement. The region has good water supply, rich soil ideals for growing coffee, a large supply of natural mineral close by, such as iron ore, a steady energy supply, a good transport system. Settlement becomes spare. Major reason for spare settlement in central Brazil is the area is covered by thick, dense equatorial rainforest. The climate of unhealthy and unfit, limitation on use and exploitation of natural resources, poor transport links in the region. The level of urbanization is measured in terms of percentage of urban population to total population. The growth of urbanization in India has been slow. In 2011, the level of urbanization in India was 31.16%, quite low compared to that of developed countries. Urbanization has been more in the south than in the north. The most urbanized state with 62% population living in urban areas is Goa. Delhi is more than 80% urban. In the states of Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Kerala, urbanization is more. Himachal Pradesh, Jammu Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Bihar, Rajasthan are some of the states with low level urbanization. Brazil is one of the few developing countries which is highly urbanized. Urban population in Brazil is about 86%. Looking at the growth in few parts of the country, Go West policy will be reduced. The Brazil governing is promoting Go West policy will be reduced population pressure on few areas as well as reduce. So looking at the growth in the few parts of the country, the Brazil government is promoting Go West policy, which will reduce population pressure on few areas as well as reduce regional imbalance in the country. So this is the main reason for Go West policy. States like Sao Paulo, Goiás, Minas Gerais has more urban population than the states in the north. Manaus is a port on the confluence of the river Negro and Amazon, where urbanization has occurred. So in this lesson, we have studied about the human settlement and the urbanization of India and Brazil. Its comparison between India and Brazil urbanization also and settlement also. So in India, we can see a variety of settlement pattern given the variety of climate factor, ability of water, slope of the land, and level of the development. Nucleated settlements are found throughout the plateau region of Narmada Valley, paddy lands in Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Vindhya plateaus, and several other cultivated parts of India. Dispersed settlements are found in tribal parts covering the central part of India, eastern and the southern Rajasthan, Himalaya slopes, and land with the dissected and uneven topography. The earlier settlements in Brazil are found by the settlers from Europe, mainly in the coastal areas. The Sao Paulo area has a nucleated settlement. The region has good water supply, rich soil ideals for growing coffee, a large supply of natural mineral close by, such as iron ore, a steady energy supply, a good transport facility. Settlements become spare as we move in towards the central part of Brazil. Major reason for spare settlement in Brazil is the area is covered by thick, dense forest, equatorial rainforest. The climate is unhealthy and unfit, limitation on use and exploitation of natural resources, poor transport link in the region. The level of urbanization is measured in terms of percentage of urban population to total population. The growth of urbanization in India has been slow. In 2011, the level of urbanization in India was 31.16%, quite low compared to that of developed countries. Urbanization has been more in the south Then in the north, the most urbanized state with 62% population living in urban areas, Goa. Delhi is more than 80% urban. In the states of Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Kerala, urbanization is more. Himachal Pradesh, Jammu Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Bihar, Rajasthan, and some of the states with low level of urbanization. Brazil is one of the few developing countries which is highly urbanized. Urban population in Brazil is about 86%. Looking at this growth in few parts of the country, the Brazil government is promoting Go West policy, which will reduce population pressure on few areas as well as reduce regional imbalance in the country. State like Sao Paulo, Goiás, Minas Gerais has more urban population in that states in the north. Manaus is a port on the confluence of the river Negro and Amazon where urbanization has occurred. So in this way, today we have studied about the lesson number 7 of geography, human settlement. Ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
I have completed, ma'am.